G'day legends and welcome back to another episode of the Cricket Mentoring Show. It's a beautiful day here in Perth and as always I have my main man with me, Reedy. How are you, legend?
Going very well, thanks, Scholesy. Looking forward to this interesting conversation. We're going to attempt to, come up with who we think is currently the best player in the world right now, particularly in Test cricket. It's quite a relevant conversation, I think, with a few blokes in and out of form, so should be good.
Absolutely, and we're by player, we're batters, so we're sort of really looking at batting in more depth. We're not going to go into all-rounders or bowlers maybe today. Maybe that's time for another episode, but yes, very much. We've just been doing some research and giving us some sort of context around everything, so really looking forward to this one.
Yeah, don't know how we're going to get there, but it should be a good chat anyway, but... Firstly, mate, we haven't been able to wipe the smile off your face all week. I'm sure by now a lot of people would know that it's been a special week for young Teague Wiley and cricket mentoring and yourself, making his first class debut for Western Australia here at the WACA in Perth. So that's just an unbelievable achievement, isn't it, mate?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I saw an article a few days ago where it was an old article when Jake Fraser McGurk made his debut a couple of years ago as a 17-year-old, and he was only the fifth player this century since 2000 to do it as 18 before his 18th birthday. So before that, I think it was Cameron White, Pat Cummins, Arjun Nair, Cameron Green, and then Jake Fraser McGurk. So that means Teague is the sixth player this century to debut before his 18th birthday. He turns 18 in a month's time. It's been an incredible week, and then to sort of be at the WACA yesterday when he walked out to bat, when he hit his first boundary, when he was just in the middle for over an hour and put on over 100-run partnership with Hilton Cartwright. It was being there with his parents on day one and his sister Georgia. It's been a very, very special week, which we're going to sort of talk a bit more about now.
Yeah, that's extraordinary. Really, he's still a baby, isn't he? He looks like a 30-year-old, but no, and that mo in his picture at the WACA receiving his cap was quite humorous, but...
Well, that's quite controversial. You're a fan of it. I'm not.
Yeah, I actually don't mind it. So, no, good on him. Good on him. Be different. Be yourself.
I wonder how he'll feel looking back in 20 years and think, well, I like it, or what was I thinking?
Well, you look back, 30 or 40 years now, they've all got the big mows and the big mops of hair, so you never know. He could fit right in. But firstly, how did he tell you about it? It must have been an exciting time for, obviously, him and his family, and then when he spoke to you. Yeah,
well, just going back, I suppose, to the game, the previous Shield game where he was in the squad, and he sort of rang and said he was in the squad for that, and then he went away, and then he sort of texted the day before the game when we were sort of I was pounding him saying, like, what's going on? Are you in? I thought he might be in that game, but then they went with the extra spinner, and so he wasn't. So coming back to the WACA, where WA had to win, and they were going to prepare a green wicket to get a result. I didn't think they'd play two spinners, so I thought they'd probably go the extra batter. So the makeup of the side, I thought it would either be Teague or Sam Fanning, another CM athlete who we've had a bit to do with. So I had a good feeling it would be one of those two, and I thought Teague might be slightly ahead of Fanners in the red ball game, in the red ball team. And then, Teague sort of gave me a call on Monday. It was 2 days before the game, and he said, just had a really good hit with Vogesy. Vogesy was on the sidearm, obviously the coach, Adam Voges, and he said, prepare to play. We won't finalise anything till tomorrow, but you're looking like you'll be in. So that was huge news, and I sort of was in the car, and I was like, yes, and really carrying on a bit, really excited. And
I don't think he was making that up either. I reckon he gave it big ones.
Yeah, I was literally drunk, going, yeah, clapping my hands, going, yes. And so it was good fun, that. And for it to know he was debuting at the WACA, and I could be there, and his family could be there, and everyone sort of special to him. So that was the first part, and then the second, the next day, the Tuesday, I was waiting for a call from him. He was training at 9 a.m, waiting for a call. He called me about lunchtime and said, are you at home? I'll drop in and just see you. I'm just going to grab some lunch. So he grabbed a Subway and then came to my house. I was at home with my daughter. I have her on a Tuesday, and he just sort of gave me a big high five and hug and said, I'm playing, batting at 5. And I was just so pumped. I was just so excited. He was pretty calm and pretty chilled and relaxed, which that was the exterior. I'm sure he had a bit going on internally, kept saying he felt fine. I know there was a bit going on the night before. But yeah, it was really cool. He spent about an hour at my place on the Wednesday lunchtime, played with my two daughters, threw some balls to them and had a good time. We had a chat, spoke a bit about his sort of mindset and how he deserves to be there, how he's ready. Just a few sort of, calming sort of thoughts. And then we had a few more texts and another call on the Tuesday night, and it was incredibly exciting. Yeah, so it was a very special and exciting couple of days leading into the first day.
No, that sounds incredible. I can't even begin to imagine the feeling of when Vogesy gave him the nod. That must have been a pretty special one. I guess then, so you get to Wednesday morning, was it? The start of the Shield game. You got there early to see the cap presentation and everything unfold there with the family and all that sort of stuff. So how'd that sort of make you feel, seeing all that?
Yeah, same sort of thing. Very proud, very just happy for Teague. It's definitely not about me. This is all about Teague. Teague is the one that sort of got there, and I wasn't able to do this in my sort of cricket career, so I'm just thrilled to have played a bit of a part in Teague's so far, and it's only just the beginning. But yeah, look, I wasn't able to go on the field, which was pretty disappointing, COVID protocols and so forth. So I was sort of on the front row of the stands, about 40 metres away, and filmed it and watched it all unfold. And then he, a very sort of nice gesture, he came over to the fence and we took a photo together, and he obviously gave me another big high five. And so it was just a really cool buzz. I then spent the day with his mum and dad. Had a couple of quiet drinks in the afternoon to sort of celebrate with them. And look, it was just a very, very special day. I was pretty nervous all day. I sort of wanted him to field well and sort of be a good part of the team in that sense. So I had this sort of anxious, nervous feeling, even though I was really up and about and enjoying it. I was getting lots of messages. No doubt Teague got hundreds of messages, as did Marnie and John, his parents. They got heaps, but I got quite a few as well. People sort of sending well wishes to Teague through me and congratulating me for the work I'd done with him over the last 5 and a bit years. So, yeah, it was a really, really nice sort of day on the Wednesday. And he didn't have to do much in the field, had a couple of little sort of moments where he could have impacted the game. But all in all, it was a pretty interesting day. And leaving the WACA on Wednesday night, I sort of said to his parents and a few other people, isn't cricket a strange game where you can debut and you can be there for 6 hours, 7 hours all day and not actually do anything? He fielded a few balls but didn't bowl, didn't bat, and he had to wait till the next day to get his opportunity. So, yeah, such a crazy game.
Yeah, we can all agree that it's just a silly game in general, but we love it somehow. And then, we spent the day Thursday down at the WACA. We were kind of barracking for the Vicks in the first little bit, hoping they get a couple of quick wickets so T could get out there. And I think it must have been, just before lunch?
40 minutes
before lunch. And he strolled out to the middle, and I could sense the nerves sort of peaking next to me from Scholesy. And I think Bucky, the Victorian coach, even sent you a message at that time and asked how you were travelling because, I think it was pretty clear to see that you're, quite anxious. But, geez, it was an exciting moment seeing him actually walk out there and to actually just get stuck into things. And he just looks like so calm. And the way he carried himself, it doesn't really ever change, does it? He's in his own world, so to speak, in general, isn't he, really? So I think, how does he manage his emotions? Is it something that you've worked on with him, or is it a natural thing for him? You heard there's a funny story from Teague's mum the night before he went out to bat. I think it wasn't all so smooth sailing. Yeah,
he's like anyone, really. He gets nervous, he gets anxious, but he's born to bat. He's just loves it so much. And for however he does it, he does manage to handle that emotion well. When he was younger, he didn't. And I was with Chris Rogers last night, as everyone knows, a very good friend of mine, and we were reflecting on a time 3 years ago when we were in Maroochydore in Queensland, and we were having a beer with Teague's parents, and they were talking about how anxious he was before he'd go out and bat, and how he was, and that held him back. Up until that point, he hadn't scored many runs, and in national carnivals. He'd been to a few under 13s and an under 15s carnival, and at that stage, 2 games in, he hadn't scored any runs, and he'd get very tense, very anxious, and couldn't then execute his skills. And so we've had some conversations over the years about, like, mate, you're a good player. Just trust yourself. Just back yourself. And also he speaks to his dad a lot, who's a really big influence in his life and his cricket career. And he sort of is a really sort of down to earth guy who's played a lot of cricket and talks about similar sort of messages to me, that you're going to get low scores. It's part of the game. And so I think he's in a really good space. He's had 3 years where every innings just about he's got runs. Yep. And that's not entirely true. He's been through his downs as well. But I think he just walked to the middle with sort of some real deep belief that this is where I belong. This is what I sort of want to do. And he's done it. It's not like he's not deserved this spot. He's done it at second 11. Yep. Even going back, he's done it at first grade. Yep. He's then gone to second 11. He's done it at second 11. He's gone to the World Cup. He's done it there. So he's got the runs behind him to walk out there with some confidence. And he probably couldn't have come in at any better time. Morning of day 2, the wicket was pretty good. It wasn't nipping around. It picked up a little bit of pace. It was coming onto the bat quite nicely. The Vicks have an excellent attack, but it was 60 overs old. The ball was older. He had an experienced player at the other end in Hilton Cartwright. They sort of ran hard and ran really well between the wickets together. I think those two will bat a lot together and probably score a lot of runs, and they're very, very good between the wickets. So, yeah, look, he said to me on the Tuesday, he said, look, I'll be very nervous going out to bat. And as you mentioned, he was very nervous the night before. His mum called me and said he was bouncing off walls and he needed to calm down a bit.
Why can I see that so clearly?
Before he went to the World Cup, he was like, got all his gear. He had all his gear on in the lounge room, was shadow batting in all his gear. And I don't think he did that this time, but he was pretty, hard. He doesn't like sitting still. And so he said he'd be nervous the first few balls, but once he faced a few balls and once he got off the mark, he'd relax. And you could tell he was on. First ball was a pretty good ball from Cam McClure, sort of middle and off. He blocked it nicely to mid-on. Yeah. He then went wide for 3, left him, and then the next ball I think he hit was a nice sort of a bit of a slice, but behind point. But that would have relaxed him. A few overs later, he hit a beautiful cover drive off Will Sutherland that really sort of relaxed him. And then I think one of the great things is and this is something that's really evolved in his game, is that it doesn't matter if he's playing for Rockingham or WA second 11 or Australia at the World Cup or now Shield cricket. He just loves batting. So it's the ball versus him. It's not James Pattinson, Australian quick. It's not Will Sutherland. It's not there's lots of people around me. It's let's bat. Let's just see the ball and bat. Let's try and make good decisions. And so once he was in and relaxed, he just batted. That's what he does. And it's the highest quality bowling he will have ever faced, but also on a very good WACA wicket. And it just showed that his game is sort of up to it, which we've always sort of thought. But
I'm happy to admit that I actually didn't think he was like going to be like quite good enough technically early on, like a few years ago. I thought I did have my doubts about that sort of thing, but the way he's applied his technique to then his batting blueprint is what has made it so good, I think. And he almost limits himself with his options and he just nails those options every time. And I said to you yesterday, we were watching him and he flicked one through mid wicket, I think it was for 4. And then the next ball, he back foot punched one.
Other way around. Back foot punch off Pattinson.
Yeah, and I just turned around and I said, like, that is just Teague in an absolute nutshell. And that were the same shots he was playing in the under-19s and the same shots you see every week at any grade ground he's batting at. And I think, it was just incredible to see him, like, just keep doing what he does. And then, like, the thing that got me, Pattinson started to go at him with the short stuff, and like he pulled one just in front of square, I think it was, out to the deep fielder, and I was just like, our eyes both opened up and we're just like, wow, that was next level. Because most other batters like facing Pattinson that day had battled with that short ball because it was quite variable, and that was when like, oh no, he belongs here. I think that's how I felt anyway. Yeah,
with the second new ball, and that was always going to be a real test, was like facing someone of Pattinson's sort of calibre pace with a newer ball. And and coming hard at him with the short ball. But he just looked so comfortable. It wasn't a hugely fast wicket yesterday, but it had pace in it. But his game's in a good place. And going back to his technique side of things, which you mentioned, he was a bit limited a few years ago, and he had a few technical issues. He'd close his front foot off a bit. He'd have to play around his pad, and he'd fall over. And they're things he's going to have to keep managing throughout his whole career. But he's worked really hard, and he's done his drill work. He hasn't been afraid of hitting lots of underarms to then make improvements. He loves the contest. He loves facing bowlers and getting on the sidearm, but he doesn't ever neglect the daily vitamins, doesn't neglect the drill work that develops his technique, which is really important. It's really important for young batters out there, young players, even anyone, bowlers or whatever, that you've got to put in the time in the simple stuff, sometimes the boring stuff, to make those changes and those improvements. So
yeah, the fun is, and the thing that put the biggest smile on our face, I reckon, was like the second over of the off spinner bowled, he just dropped down and swept him for 4, and we almost laughed because like that was just everything you've sort of worked with him, and as you say, just drills and underarm sweeps, like, and in the 19s that he brought that out, it was quite a good moment, that one. I reckon.
Absolutely. We were sitting at sort of deep cover, and we couldn't see the line that the bowler was bowling, but you could sort of see the pace and the length, and he just sort of running down, knocking it to long on, blocking, got back and cut one, and then all of a sudden, bang, 4 behind square. And that's something that a few years ago we started with underarms. We started with little soft underarms and learning to play the sweep shot, and then we went to India. He came to India with us and did a lot of work on his sweep shot there, and he just batted for hours and hours and hours and days there, and that was the sort of start of him learning to play spin well, and watching him play Matt Short yesterday, where he ran down and just clipped into long on, jogged to the other end, got back. It just looked like a 100 sort of game player, and it was pretty exciting just watching him, just his all-round game. He scored off the back foot against the quicks, he cover drove the quicks, he flicked off the quicks' legs, he sort of played the spin well, and he got a good ball in the end, probably one he didn't need to play at. And he said that Will Sutherland's action, he sort of comes from 11 o'clock, and it makes you feel like you have to play at them more often than not.
That was one I called sort of the over before. I said I'd probably be bowling Sutherland to him because he hits that sort of really awkward length with the new ball, and so that's the next sort of test, isn't it? Is like being able to adjust to those really skillful guys that are at that next level there, and there's 1 or 2 in every side where it can be tough.
Absolutely, and I think the next test on top of that is teams are going to start trying to work him out. They've got footage and they sort of see how he plays now, and they're going to have plans for him. He's not such an unknown now, and teams are going to be able to do a bit more research on him and sort of set plans up for him. So there's going to be many tests, and like any batter, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of struggles, and he's going to have to fight through them. He's going to have to work through them, but look, it was very exciting. WA are probably going to win the Shield game today, and then they'll host the final next week against the Vicks again, who get back Boland and Harris. So it'll hopefully be it might be a slightly more a better contested match. But if he does play, if they do pick him again in the final, coming up against the Vic attack with Boland, I think will be an incredible test. But what an experience for a 17-year-old to potentially play in a Sheffield Shield final.
No, that'll be next level, really. Dreams, that's what dreams are made of. Take us back to sort of where it all began for our listeners. Not everyone might know sort of how you met Teague and how it all started with him when he was 13. There's some good banter around this, isn't there?
Yeah, well, I was joking with Teague's mum, Marnie, or she sort of brought it up at the ground on Wednesday, how when she first came across me, she thought I was a weirdo because I slid into Teague's DMs on Instagram. I sort of, back when we were sort of starting cricket mentoring, we had to get attention somehow, and I spent a lot of time on sort of my cricket, looking at players' stats. We still do this a bit now as well. We look at players' stats. We try and find them on Instagram, and then we sort of send them a DM saying, "Oh, well done on the weekend," or "Well done." And in this particular case, I saw that Teague had won some awards for the most runs or whatever in the WACA under 13s, and it's a vivid memory in my mind of the photos I saw, and then I sent him a message saying, "Hey mate, congratulations on your season and your awards. You should come and have a hit with me sometime." And cricket mentoring was sort of still young then. I think we'd been going for a bit under a year. So we still had some sort of following, but it wasn't a big following. And he replied, "Oh, look, I'll speak to my mum." And then he showed his mum, Marnie, who we're now very close. And she was like, "Oh, this bloke's a weirdo." Like, I think I followed up with like, "Oh, I'll give you a hit for free." And because he said, "Oh, look, mum and dad said no. They can't afford it. They don't want to pay for it, whatever." And I said, "Look, mate, come along. I'll give you a hit for free." And I was like, I trusted myself that if they came and they met me, that they would see that I'm a normal, good bloke. I wanted to sort of work with good players. And so they came along. First session was at Richardson Park in South Perth up the road here. And I think they had their reservations. But once we met, we sort of connected. I sort of threw him some balls. And from the first few balls, I thought, gee whiz, this 13-year-old, he is, with a high-pitched voice back then, he technically set up like incredibly well and mature. He was in great positions for his age, better than a lot of positions of guys that I was playing first grade with. And just the way he asked questions and talked about the game and thought about the game, I thought, wow, he really loves it and understands it. And then I was looking back on our messages recently from that very beginning, and I think he messaged me that night asking me questions. Like his brain had sort of been ticking since the session, and he asked me questions and then said, "When can we have our next session?" And then I think we had a session a few weeks later, and then again a few weeks later, and he kept messaging in between on Instagram saying like, "Well, what about this? What about that? Oh, you're watching this?" And we just started this dialogue where we were constantly talking about batting and cricket. And then from there, like his mum and dad used to sort of give him a day off school once a week, not every week, but he sort of didn't really like school. He didn't get on well with school. He wasn't a great student. And so they saw a lot of value in him coming to spend time with me. I'd throw him balls. I was still playing, so he'd throw me balls, and we'd get lunch and we'd just hang out. He'd do some stuff for cricket mentoring, reply to some messages or whatever. And we just became really good friends, even though he was young and there's an age gap. We connected, and we both love cricket nuffies. And yeah, so it's been sort of 5 years or so. He's coming up to his 18th birthday next month, so really looking forward to having a beer with him for the first time, and not his first beer, but with him. So yeah, it's been a great ride, and I could never have imagined him getting to where he is so quickly. I've always thought that he could be a very special player, but the last couple of years have just been incredible, and no doubt there's many sort of tough times ahead, especially now that he's playing at this level. But yeah, it's been a fun ride so far, and I look forward to sort of being a part of it moving forward as well.
Yeah, I think there's one thing we can all agree on here, and that is that you're still a weirdo. So nothing's changed there, Mans.
Fair call.
No, but it's a wonderful story, and something, I think we're pretty proud of here at Cricket Mentoring, and I know you are, especially there. So yeah, moving on to this is going to take some time, I think. I still don't know how we're going to work it out, but I messaged Scholes last week saying, "No, we should discuss who is actually the best player in the world right now at this present moment." Or batter. Yeah, you got to be a batter to be a good player, in my opinion. Yeah. Where are we at with this? Where are you at?
Well, I think that best batter in the world. We're going to start with Test cricket, because to us that's the ultimate. That's why it's called Test cricket. It's the ultimate test. And if you're not good in Test cricket, in our opinion, and guys, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but in our opinion, Test cricket is the pinnacle. And if you don't sort of do well in Test cricket, well, then you're not one of the best batters in the world. So you got to start with the Fab Four, the Big Four, whatever they're called: Steve Smith, Joe Root, Kane Williamson, and Virat Kohli. But I think you have to add into them Babar Azam, and then Marnus, who's had an amazing start to his career. Once we do venture outside of just Test cricket, I think Rohit Sharma and David Warner enter the conversation as well as the best all-round players across all three formats. And we're going to sort of also discuss Usman Khawaja, because he is in some red-hot form, and he could be the best batter in the world right now if we're thinking about the last 6 months or even 3 months or so. So, yeah, where are they at ranking-wise?
The rankings are a very interesting one. So we've got Marnus number 1.
And this is Test rankings.
Yeah, Test rankings. Root 2, Smith 3, Williamson 4, Babar 5, Rohit Sharma 7, Kohli 9, Warner 12, and Usman Khawaja's 13.
It's interesting. There's something that stands out for me there. I think Marnus, Root, Smith, Williamson, top 3.
Yep.
Baba is quite high. I didn't realise he'd be that high in red ball in Test cricket. And Kohli at 9. That obviously is on the back of him not getting a Test century for over 2 years. But from what I have understood, I thought his numbers are still okay. And Smith's in a similar boat. I think he's gone 14 innings out now without a Test century, but he's got 7 half centuries in that time.
Yeah. Quite shocked that Rohit Sharma's actually passed him and gone above him there. I actually wasn't aware of that. That's interesting.
And I don't know how the metrics are sort of done or worked out. I'm not exactly sure how that's done, but that's obviously some sort of algorithm to work out the numbers. But if we break it down into their stats, Joe Root has played quite a bit more than everyone else, 117 tests. He's got the most runs as a result of that, 9,884. The next most tests, 101 tests, Kohli's got 8,043 runs. And just behind him in terms of runs, Steve Smith has just passed 8,000 runs, 8,010 runs he's at now, but only 85 tests. And Williamson, 86 tests, one more than Smith, 7,272 runs, so 730 odd runs less than Smith in one more test. So, look, I'm going to start straight away, and we're going to break down some of these numbers more. But in this Test match, Steve Smith passed 8,000 runs. He broke the record, or he's now the fastest to 8,000 runs. 151 innings it took Steve Smith to get there. The next best is Sangakkara, 152 innings. Tendulkar was 154 innings. So Garfield Sobers was 157 innings, and Dravid was 158 innings. And of all those players, when they pass 8,000 runs, Smith averaged 60.15. He's the only player over 60. Sobers was 59. Tendulkar was 58. Dravid was 57.5. Sanga 57. Callis 56. Ponting 56. So, Look, it's been 14 innings since Smith has scored a Test century, January 2021, over 12 months. But to me, he's still the best player in the world. Those numbers are head and shoulders above the next best.
Well, it's pretty tough to argue. The fastest 8,000 runs has got to count for something there, doesn't it? Quick shout out to Kumar Sangakkara, the god of left-handers. I
thought Sean Marsh was the god of left-handers.
Yeah, but Kumar's like everyone's dad.
He is a guru. He's a guru.
Yeah, what a player he was.
What about the averages there, Reedy? What are you seeing in the averages?
Yeah, averages. Yeah, Kohli slipping under 50 is quite an interesting conversation itself. I never thought I'd see the day, but this last couple of years he's obviously struggled not so much struggled, but he's had a slight down period there, hasn't he? Marnus up at 54 still is pretty
but that's
incredible.
Come down. I think Marnus had an average better than Smith.
Was he about 64 or something?
I think Marnus had an average better than Smith maybe after the home series. And then he's had 5 innings in Pakistan and only averaged 34. And because he hasn't played a whole lot, when you've played less, obviously, I'm probably telling something that everyone knows, your average gets impacted more greatly by the good scores and the bad scores than when you've played a lot of cricket. A big 100 or a duck doesn't impact your average as much. So Marnus getting a few low scores has brought his average down quite significantly. But 54, still, that's very good.
And Kane Williamson is sort of an unsung hero in a way because they haven't played a lot of Test cricket lately. So I think it's tough to sort of compare him right now with people.
Kane as well often plays on seaming wickets in New Zealand. So to average 53.47, very good. He is an exceptional player.
I honestly think his technique and overall game, is probably the most suited all around the world, like compared to the other guys at the moment. I think his game will hold up no matter where he is. But so you've gone with Smith right now as still the best?
Well, yeah, I think so. Overall, and I think you just can judge them on their record. Right now, Khawaja's batting better than Smith, let's be honest. Khawaja's averaging 160 or something in this series in Pakistan, and he's out-batting everyone. But I think overall, I still think Smith's the best. And he's average. We've just mentioned Marnus 54, Williamson 53, Kohli 49, Root 49.4, Usman's up to 47, and Babar is 45. Smith is 59.78. He's dipped under 60 after he got out. He was over 60 when he passed 8,000, got out. It's just gone under 60, but it's 59 after 85 tests. That is phenomenal.
Yeah, that's just a bit silly, really. And yeah, I think I'm going to make a bit of an argument for Joe Root as the best current player, or batter, sorry. He's played 117 tests, nearly 10,000 runs, which I actually was quite shocked at. That's amazing. At an average of 49.42. The thing that amazes me with him is he's scored 25 centuries and 53 50s. That is a lot of times passing 50. I think it's, what have we got here? 36% of the time he passes 50.
Yep.
Is that right?
And that's so he's passed 50 the most times, and that makes sense given he's played the most tests. He's had the most innings, so he's passed 50 78 times. But his conversion rate from 50 to 100 is one of the lowest.
It's the lowest,
it's 32%.
Yeah. Yep.
Manus is 31 and Babar is 23, so they're actually lower than Root. But if Root's conversion rate, compare that to Smith, who's 42%, 42.85%, and Kohli's conversion rate from 50 to 100 is 49%. That's the best of the whole lot. But Root has passed 50 more times. He's got 53 50s. So if Root had have converted some of those 50s to 100s, he still averages, what is he at? 49.4. If he had converted some of those 50s, his numbers would probably be closer to Smith's. And that was a real, I think, criticism of Root for quite some time, that he wasn't playing match-winning innings. He wasn't scoring big hundreds. But while Smith and Kohli have probably gone backwards a little bit in the last 2 years in terms of their output and their numbers and their centuries scored, Root has really probably been the premier batter in Test cricket over the last couple of years.
And yeah, another thing to maybe consider is Root, like batting in England, it does sort of nip around all day, doesn't it? You've got to bat well the entire innings to score hundreds. You get the odd flat one or one that turns a bit. And then I look at him right now, and like his game against spin is world class. Like watching him sweep is actually poetic, if you ask me. And his recent series in the subcontinent and over in the West Indies right now, where it is turning, Cheese is good. It's tough to go against him right now.
Well, I think that the trend or the theme, like to get into this conversation, these sort of 7 players, and then you add in Sharma and Warner, 9 players. You've got to be good in all conditions against all types of bowling. Like, I think there'd be a knock on Warner that he hasn't scored the runs in England when the ball does swing and seam a bit. But overall, his Test and career record, ODI and T20 records is phenomenal. And all of these players, they've all scored runs all around the world, and their game is good against pace and spin. There's not too many kinks in their armour. And to me, that all comes down to having good fundamentals technically, but also an incredible hunger to be the best and be the best they can be, and a willingness to constantly learn and tinker and adapt so that they can get better and they can evolve. Because as we just spoke about with Teague, these guys are sort of, every opposition knows their strengths, knows a lot about them, and they've got plans to try and counter them. I think England actually did that quite well in the Ashes this year. They bowled straighter to Smith and they had a leg side field and they made it harder for him. But these guys are all phenomenal players. And I think an important message for any young players watching or listening is they're not always at the top of their game. Root went for a few years where he was struggling to get runs. Kohli at the moment is below par in terms of his output. Smith, although he's still really going quite well, 7 half centuries his last 14 innings, he hasn't got a century in that time, which is below par for him. They do go through tough times, but over a long period of time, their numbers are still phenomenal.
Yeah, no, I think with Root, he still gets out in similar ways. Those weaknesses are actually quite, I guess, they stand out in a way. But yeah, for them to execute the rest of their game so well and try and limit their weaknesses for long periods of time is probably a big reason why they're able to convert and score so many runs as well. And you look at Manus Root, Coley, that sort of, even you could argue for Smith and Barber, like that channel outside off is quite a weakness. And then a lot of them, how good are they through the leg side and being able to manipulate the ball around? I think it's pretty clear with Smithy and Root especially how good they are off turning balls off stump into the leg side. Some interesting trends when you start going into their sort of game blueprints, I guess you could call it.
And scoring areas. And something that I think is an interesting stat, and we did a little bit of sort of stat nothing out before this, that Marnus has the highest percentage of getting to 50. So if you look at how many innings they've played and how many times they've passed 50, you get a percentage of how often they get past 50. And he, in his short career, 26 tests, he's played the least tests out of all of them. He's passed 50 42.2% of the time. Smith is 41.7%, which after 85 tests is phenomenal. They're all phenomenal. Williamson passes 50 38% of the time. Bubba 37% of the time. Root 36% of the time. Coley's conversion rate from 50 to 100 was the best, but he's only passing 50 32% of the time. And Khawaja's conversion rate is exceptional as well, 42%. Every time he gets to 50, 42% of the time he gets to 100, but he only gets to 50 32% of the time. Although that would be higher in recent times. His numbers in this sort of since he came back into the side, 137, 101 not out against England at Sydney. He had a tough game in Hobart where he was nipping around. He got 6 and 11. Then this Pakistan series, 97, 160, 44 not out, 91, 104 not out. His average is 125 since he's come back into this team. So, as I said before, he's not in the top 6. He's not in the best 6 because he was out of the team 3 or 4 months ago. But he must be close to the best batter in the world right now.
Yep, it's very, very tough to argue that. And I think the fact he's doing it in pretty... I don't know. Could you call the Pakistan to tough conditions or?
I think
they're
they've
foreign,
been
but they're
batting
pretty
friendly wickets.
Yeah. But
foreign.
Marnus has struggled there, so they're not having it all their own way. Clearly, one thing I want to talk about I think is standing up in the big moments. Babar's knock in the last test to 197 or something, and to miss out on the double century. But it was when he did it for his team in the fourth innings of a test match. Those are the sort of things I like to take into consideration and showing that sort of grit, that determination when it matters most. And I've looked back to like Smith's in the Ashes in England when he was pretty much carrying Australia and sensing the big moments. So that's the sort of stuff I love.
Yeah, well, I think Smith's 100 in the first test of the last Ashes, his first test since sort of back from Sandpaper Gate, and the crowd was into him, and that 100 I think he's listed as his favourite, and that was incredible. The emotion that was attached to that, and that again is something that these great players are able to do. They're able to stand up in big moments, and that's why they're the best. And so I think ultimately across their careers they'll be judged by their averages, their runs scored, their averages, and their hundreds scored. But it's just such a funny thing. At any point in time, if we went back 6 months, we went back 2 years, any point in time, there'll be others that are someone will be the best and one of the others won't. But ultimately, they're judged on their career, and they're all fantastic players and are all going to end as true greats of the game. If we move into the white ball game now, we're not going to dissect the numbers as clearly, but something that stands out in the white ball rankings is Babar. How good is Babar in white ball cricket?
Yeah, number 1 in one-day internationals and T20 internationals.
Go with 5, he's ranked 5 in Test cricket. So overall, it suggests that he's the best all-round player in the world right now. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, it's as simple as that, really.
And to give it some context,
stats don't lie in that department.
Coley is ranked 9 in Test cricket, 2 in ODI cricket, but 16 in T20 cricket. So Coley, in my opinion, 70 international hundreds. He's the best all-round player. So just to clarify, I'm saying Steve Smith's the best test batter at the moment. He's been the best test batter for some time now. But I think Coley's the best all-round batter. But Babar, he is phenomenal. 5 and top in the other 2.
Yeah. And geez, he's good to watch, isn't he? He's one of those naturally gifted sort of players. He's quite a positive player. So that it's begs a question: can he do it sort of when the ball's nipping around in Australia, England, South Africa? When it's getting more above waist height more often. I know he plays a short ball pretty well, but against the red ball, you got to be able to adapt to those conditions too. So that's probably his next big test, isn't it? Starting to take this sort of form.
And Baba's only played 40 tests. So in Test cricket, he's still quite sort of young compared to the other players. But in terms of rankings, he's easily the best. Kohli, across a long period of time, has been exceptional in all formats. He's the greatest playing at the moment, I think. But Rohit Sharma, he is 7 in Test cricket, 4th in ODI cricket. And this actually surprised me. He is 14th in T20 cricket. He's one of the most dynamic, one of the best T20 batters in the world, in my opinion. But he's ranked 14th. But it seems like that's better than Warner. He's ahead of Warner in Test cricket. He's ahead of Warner in ODI cricket. And he's ahead of Warner in T20 cricket. So I thought that they are two others across all formats who are phenomenal. You look at Warner's IPL numbers, and that's obviously not international cricket, but that's the best IPL tournament in the world with all the best players, and Warner does incredibly well there. He was the player of the tournament in the T20 World Cup. So Warner's ranking probably doesn't do him justice, and ranking isn't everything. It's an algorithm, and if you miss games, if you're rested and you miss games, you miss series, your ranking's going to drop down. So I don't think that tells the full picture.
Yep.
But to me, Rohit is nudging Warner, is ahead of Warner as one of the best all-format players.
Yeah, Rohit's one of those guys that feels like every time he walks out to bat in a one-day, he's getting a big one. That's just, that's how good he is. And he makes batting look so easy. He is one that actually has played well in Australia and overseas from India because he's got that. He plays a short ball well. He plays spin well. He's sort of very adaptable too. So, mate, I'm not getting any closer to sort of narrowing this down. I don't know.
Just for the record, I think of the Fab Four, Virat is the best all-round player, as we've just said. I think Kane and Joe Root are pretty close. Like Kane Williamson's ranked 44 in T20 cricket. And we know that he's a fantastic ODI player as well. Smith's not in the top 100 for T20. I think Smith used to be quite a good T20 player. I think his T20 game has probably suffered a bit in recent time with his elbow injury and whatever else. He hasn't sort of scored the runs that he's capable of scoring. He's still a fantastic ODI player. Root is ranked ahead of Smith in ODI cricket. He's ranked 10th. Smith's ranked 15th. Marnus is pretty much a test player only at the moment. He'll probably evolve into an all-format player, but 61 in ODIs and not ranked in the top 100 in T20. So it's just such an interesting conversation. I think that Root, Williamson and Smith are all very similar players, but Kohli's head and shoulders above them in terms of all formats.
Yeah, I think, No, that's totally agree with that. And I think we're very blessed with this sort of group of players and getting to watch them sort of battle it out and strive for greatness, really. Like, I like what you said before. It's you get judged on your career overall, and you look at Ponting, for example, and his last couple of years, he did struggle, and people thought he was sort of going downhill and whatever, but you look back and he's still, one of the greats.
Absolutely. So, well, I think we've sort of covered a fair bit of it there, and there's probably heaps of stats and information we've left out, but we've just sort of shared what we think. We'd love to know your comments or thoughts. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment. We'll try and reply to a few of them. Who do you think is the best player in the world, batter in the world right now in men's cricket? And also, if you're sort of listening on a podcast, send us a message on Instagram and let us know your thoughts. Hopefully you've enjoyed this conversation. So, Reedy, we haven't done this for a few weeks, but there was a real standout innings, and you were frothing over this. And we actually had a few of our players. Teague actually messaged us, and then Doki messaged us saying, this is obvious. Who is the latest inductee into your Grinders Club?
Yeah, well, we were sort of we're waiting for one to jump out at us and find a worthy sort of new member. And this one, it was very tough to go by. We had no choice here, and cap number 9 is going to Craig Brathwaite from the West Indies, and This is after he faced the most balls in a test match ever by a West Indian, which was 673 deliveries in the one game, which is phenomenal. And if you think about it, you think back to Brian Lara scoring 400 odd. Was that still less balls then? So that is just, it's an unbelievable achievement. And he was really trying to stand up for his country there. And another interesting stat I saw was the last test centuries scored by a West Indies opener were all against England, were all him.
The last 10, yeah.
Last 10 since I was about 2014, I think it goes back to 13 maybe.
To score 10 test centuries against one team is a huge
and in England as well, probably. There's a few that in England in tough conditions. And he's a proper grinder. You can see it. And technically, he's not fussed about how it looks, and he just loves getting behind the ball. And clearly, he's very good with his hands and being able to adjust to a moving ball. And his temperament is just unbelievable. So it could be, the modern day Wall of Test match cricket, because that's the only time we get to see him. So it's good that he's actually able to maintain this and over a course of a long period of time. And welcome to the club, Craig.
Well done, Craig. And I went to share a story of about him the other day and had to sort of follow him to share it. And then it had the follow back. So he's been a cricket mentoring follower for some time. And after I actually got a screenshot sent to me by Teague after that, and Teague goes, I want to break this record. One of Teague's ambitions is to face the most balls in an innings in Test cricket. So that's something our young grinder Teague wants to do in the future, and that's a pretty cool ambition, I reckon.
489 balls in one innings.
Phenomenal.
That is exceptional. Baba mustn't have been far off that, actually, in that game-saving knock as well. I think he got past 400.
I think so.
I was very close. But anyway, that's exceptional batting. And they're in the series still.
Yep. Yeah. Barty went out for 204 overnight, and that was a 9th wicket partnership. I think I saw overnight. Again, Instagram gives us a lot of stats because we follow cricket accounts. Saqib Mahmood batting 11, top scored for England. They were 9 for 114 and made 204. The last pair, Jack Leach and Mahmood. Leach made 41, Mahmood made 49. That was the 12th time in Test history that the number 11 has top scored. So a bit of history overnight.
It's all happening, isn't it?
It is all happening. So much cricket. And we haven't even got into the Women's World Cup. We're going to save that for another episode. We haven't really got into so much other cricket that's going on in the world. The IPL starts tomorrow, so that's very exciting. We're going to be doing some content around that. But just finally, before we sort of say goodbye, we just want to make note that Ash Barty, the tennis player, has announced her retirement at just the age of 25. It's a sad but happy day for her, I'm sure. We mentioned her on our podcast on the show a few weeks ago about how we've learnt about the identity piece around coaching people, not just athletes. And it was a really impactful thing that we learnt from her sort of mentor, Ben Crow. So just a shout out from two sports-loving Aussies to Ash Barty. And who knows, she might come back and play cricket. She's sort of left it very open. There's a lot of speculation around what she's going to do next. Is she going to play professional golf, footy, cricket again? Is she going to have a baby? Well, is she going to go into business, politics? Who knows?
Yeah.
But she's a superstar. She's an amazing human. And really proud that she's an Australian and such a great ambassador for women's sport and sport in Australia.
In a way, it's kind of great to see her going out on her terms, because that sort of sums up everything that we've spoken about with her understanding her identity and understanding that there's more to life than, I guess,
hitting a tennis ball.
Dominating tennis, being world number one. So she clearly has other values in life, and she's going to explore them.
And to me, that's a person who doesn't let their ego sort of run wild. She's ranked number one in the world now. She won the Aussie Open earlier this year, and she could keep going. She's 25 years old. She could keep going and dominate and earn a lot more money, get a lot more recognition, become one of the great players of the modern era of the history of the game. But she said, as you just said, nah, I want to do other things. I've got other values. Hitting a tennis ball isn't the most important thing to me. I heard on the radio yesterday about how being away from home during the pandemic and like living in bubbles really took its toll, and she loves having a beer, she loves playing golf, she loves her nieces and nephews, and maybe she wants to start a family of her own. So she's just got engaged. So yeah, congratulations to her, and that's a truly inspiring story of someone who is doing it their way and isn't worried about other people's opinions, and is trying to live a happy life, not just a successful life.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised to see her dominating the AFLW or something like that next year. She loves the Tigers, so
yep.
Yeah,
maybe she'll be a multi-format. She might play cricket in the summer, footy in the winter, and then golf all year round. Just go on the golf tour as well and fit it all in. She's that good. But we'll wrap it up there, legends. Thanks a lot for listening. Hopefully you got some value from this episode, something a bit different with no guest in. We might have another guest for you guys very soon, but just a bit of chit-chat with about a few things going on. Love to hear your thoughts and comments as always, and please leave a review over on the podcast channel to help us get heard by more people. So, Reedy, what's on for you for the weekend? You're back into footy, eh?
Yeah, playing footy now. So, looking forward to it. And, enjoyed this chat, actually. Should do more of it, I reckon.
Lovely. Well, we'll hear what the audience thinks. Cheers, legends.